Hey, how's it going? So today we're going to be talking about the ROG Strix XG43VQ. I did get a chance to purchase it, so this is, and I've had it for around 2 months as of now. Some of the things I want to talk about is the I/O, the color accuracy, the likes and dislikes, and some of the extra features that the monitor has over maybe other versions. This is the XG43VQ, and then there's also the XG49VQ. So some of the differences are the resolution specs. So right now on the 43-inch model, it is 3840 by 1200 pixels. So on the bigger version, it's actually 3840 by 1080, but the difference is also in the refresh rate, where the 43-inch only goes to 120 hertz, and the larger one goes to 144 hertz. So for productivity wise, I believe the 43-inch model is much better, just because there are an extra 120 pixels vertically, whereas on the larger one, you are just limited to that 1080p. So let's talk about the I/O. It does have two HDMI 2.0 ports. I don't think it's 2.1. 2.0 should be enough for 4K at 120 hertz. It also supports 12-bit if you need that. It also has a display port. It does say 1.2 on here, but in the monitor you can enable 1.4, as well as 2 USB and a headphone jack. There is an extra external USB that comes in pretty handy if you want to plug in to the computer, like a thumb drive, charging cable, or something like that, without reaching to get to your desktop. So here's an example. I am actually using it right now, and it is pretty easy to access, as it's right around this portion of the monitor. The disadvantage with this monitor, I believe, is the cable management. Although it is an amazing cable management system, where if you see on the back, you can get all the cables routed through there is a cutout for the cables to go through the bottom and then out the back, so it doesn't really clutter the desktop. However, I feel that hole is a bit too small if you're using all the I/O, so that's something to keep in mind. If you're using one HDMI and like two USBs, two USB 3.0s, and maybe headphones, that should be fine. I used all of them and then some, just because I'm in the process of upgrading my video card and I was having some trouble. So that's probably my fault for sticking so many cables in there. If you do stick too many thick cables, it does interfere with pushing the monitor up and down if you need to adjust it all the time. Though if you were to set it, it should be fine. Let's talk about adjustability of the monitor. Let me see here. So it does swivel 16 degrees to the left and to the right, which is enough, I find. However, it is still difficult to plug in cables just because of the size of the monitor. It is a big monitor, so trying to get under there and putting in HDMI cables is a bit tricky. So I wish it kind of rotated more, maybe 45 degrees, so you could rotate, put in the cables, rotate it back. Unfortunately, that's one of the downsides. Although once the cables are in, it doesn't really matter. Height adjustment is pretty good. It does go up and down and stays in place pretty well, I find, and it does tilt. So getting the right angle for your setup, I feel that's something that could be done pretty well. Some other things I wanted to talk about were the color accuracy and maybe some of the technology used in this monitor. So I do have a Asus ProArt display. It is an sRGB panel. This is a VA panel on the ultrawide. So the blacks might not look as good as the IPS versions, and there's definitely some playing around to be done with the color accuracy. Right, so it does support FreeSync, G-Sync, HDR is amazing, and if you see here, it does support DCI-P3 90%, professional color. So one of the reasons I bought this monitor over others is for the increased color range. I do have a ProArt display, but I wanted to make sure that I could still use that and kind of combine the two. So I just want to point out my setup currently. So if you look, it's a ProArt display. It's also 1200 pixels vertically, so it does match the ultra-wide panel, and it's like kind of like having 3 monitors, but I did really want to match the color between the ProArt and the ultra-wide gaming. If you look closely, the ultra-wide, I feel, has a bit of a gray tint, and really needs a bit of tweaking to get rid of that in the control panel, whereas the ProArt has gray colors and accurate colors just out of the box. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm going to open the NVIDIA control panel and show you the difference in color. So this here, the anchor communication, that's just recognizing the Asus ProArt display. I have it hooked up using DVI, I believe, just because my old GPU doesn't support 2 HDMIs. I'm currently running a GTX 690 with the Ryzen 1700X system, and I'll be going over some of the reasons why I'm running this graphics card in some other videos. But basically, you don't really have to touch the ProArt display just because it's calibrated. The Asus does need calibration. If you have the opportunity to purchase an eye calibration device, to calibrate the monitor, you don't really need too much. I can go over this in a later video, but you can use an eye calibration device that you put over the monitor and it automatically calibrate the colors. What I've done is just went off kind of like an eyeballing attempt at the moment. I had to decrease the gamma and increase the digital vibrance. I also had to do a bit of adjustment in the actual monitor settings to the sharpness and the contrast to match the calibrated ProArt display monitor. In the system control panel, I've hooked up this monitor using DisplayPort and changed the setting to use 1.4, DisplayPort 1.4. To get to the setting, you would need to, let me show you. You'd need to click, there are 3 buttons at the bottom, one in the middle, which is the menu button. You would have to click that and click it again. Then go to System Setup, Display Part Version, and then enable 1.4 if it's not already enabled. So one of the other things you'd also have to set up if it doesn't come up automatically is the resolution. And just to show you here, I am using an older video card which uses a mini DisplayPort to DisplayPort version. It doesn't support the full 120 Hertz just because it's an older card, but I did get a newer card and I tested it using a GTX 1080 Ti and everything worked perfectly. Although if you do have an older card like mine, this is something to keep in mind, where older cards using DisplayPort 1.2 might not be able to get the full 120 Hertz. Alright, let's move on to something else. Basically, if you were to download the drivers for the if you go to the above link, go to the RG Strix drivers page, and then download the software and utilities for this monitor, you'd get something that looks like this. So this is a display widget, and I believe you do have to plug in the USB coming out of the monitor into the back of your computer for this to work, but basically you can access most of your settings to control the monitor right from this toolbox. And let's say if you wanted to have 2 or 3 windows open, you can basically drag and, same as snapping, snap the window to any one of these boxes. So if I were to let go, that's how it would work. Same with this. And as you can see, it's not limited to one monitor. As long as you have multiple monitors and have this tool installed, you can actually snap it to, this is my ProArt display, I have it arranged with 3 boxes, and then I have my main monitor with 3 as well. And each one of these is customizable. So if I wanted to snap it to my mother monitor, I could easily go there. And I believe this is much better than just using the old Windows method, just because of the amount of utility you can get out of it. Let me just show you the app again. So you can customize them in the app below. You can even customize what kind of grids you want and arrange them however you like. Currently I have it set up in the 3 vertical bars just because I want more content to appear on my main display. And you can also select the secondary monitor and arrange it, and also arrange it. You can access your game visuals from here, and also adjust image quality from here as well. Advanced settings, you can access the detailed image settings for the monitor. Although I found that this wasn't as reliable, as it did reset sometimes, and it would be better to set this up using the menu of the actual monitor. Coming up, I'll also be recording some gameplay on the ultra-wide display and how that would look like using actually an older graphics card as well as some newer graphics cards to see the performance and the quality and some of the new features of this monitor. So check out some other videos, probably around here, and subscribe for more content. Thank you for watching.